Two strangers met without knowing that some meetings don't end in goodbye, they end in what could have been. Love never announces itself with permission. It arrives quietly, without warning, slipping into a moment that was never meant to change anything, and somehow changes everything. It begins in the most ordinary setting, between two strangers who were not searching for each other, who were not expecting anything beyond the passing of time. There is no plan, no preparation, no promise of forever. Just a single glance that lingers a heartbeat longer than it should, a feeling that settles into the chest before logic has a chance to question it. At first, it feels harmless. A simple curiosity, a gentle pull towards someone whose presence feels strangely familiar. Conversations start without intention, words flowing easily as if they've been rehearsed long before this meeting. Laughter comes naturally, silences feel comfortable, and suddenly the world seems softer when they are near. Love does not rush. It watches, waits, and grows quietly in the background while both hearts pretend nothing unusual is happening. This kind of love doesn't demand attention. It hides in small details, the way their eyes search for each other in a room, the way a smile appears unconsciously, the way a simple message can change the entire mood of the day. It lives in moments that feel too brief yet strangely meaningful, moments that leave behind a warmth long after they end. Neither of them names it, because naming it would make it real, and reality can be terrifying. There is beauty in love that begins this way, unplanned, unguarded, untouched by expectations. It is pure because it has not yet learned fear. It exists before doubt, before complications, before the world reminds them of consequences. It feels like standing at the edge of something vast, knowing one step forward could change everything, yet staying still because the unknown feels safer than the truth. Love that begins without warning often arrives disguised as coincidence. Two lives intersecting at the wrong time or perhaps the perfect one. A connection forming not because it was chosen, but because it was inevitable. It doesn't ask whether it should exist, it simply does. And once it takes root, even briefly, it leaves a mark that time struggles to erase. This love doesn't shout or demand to be seen. It settles quietly into the heart, growing deeper with every shared glance, every unspoken emotion, every moment where both feel something powerful yet remain silent, aware that some beginnings are as fragile as they are beautiful, and once acknowledged, they may never remain the same. Between two strangers, there exists a language that does not rely on words. It forms in pauses, in glances held just long enough to feel intentional, in the quiet awareness of another presence that suddenly feels important. This silent language speaks softly, yet it carries weight, expressing emotions that voices hesitate to reveal. Without realizing it, they begin to communicate through what is left unsaid, allowing feelings to travel freely where words might fail. Every look becomes a sentence, every shared smile a confession carefully hidden in plain sight. When their eyes meet, there is an unspoken understanding, a brief exchange that feels personal and private, as if the world fades for a moment. They notice how expressions change, how silence grows heavier comforting, how a simple moment can hold more meaning than a long conversation. Nothing is declared, yet everything is felt. This language thrives in restraint. It exists because neither dares to speak openly, knowing that once words are released, there may be no turning back. So emotions remain tucked into subtle gestures, a slight tilt of the head, a soft breath taken when the other comes close, the way attention is given fully without being asked. These small details become their shared vocabulary, understood instinctively rather than learned. In crowded spaces, they find each other without effort. A glance across the room is enough to confirm what both already sense. In quiet moments, silence stretches comfortably, never awkward, filled instead with an awareness that feels intimate and rare. They listen not just to what is said, but to what is meant, reading between the lines of every exchange. The absence of words becomes a shield, protecting them from the vulnerability that truth demands. There is a certain ache in this unspoken connection. So much is felt, yet so little is expressed. Emotions linger in the space between them, hovering like unfinished thoughts. Each moment feels suspended, as if waiting for courage that may never arrive. Still, there is beauty in the restraint, in the delicate balance of knowing and not knowing, wanting and holding back. This silent language deepens the bond without asking for commitment or certainty. It allows them to remain strangers in name while becoming familiar in ways that feel dangerously close. They carry conversations in their eyes, confessions in their pauses, promises in their smiles, trusting that the heart understands what the voice cannot say, and that sometimes the most powerful expressions of love are the ones that remain unspoken. Some moments arrive carrying the weight of destiny, even when they appear ordinary on the surface. Between two strangers, there are instances that feel too perfectly timed to be accidental, as if the universe quietly arranged them to intersect for a reason neither can fully explain. These moments linger in memory, not because they were grand or dramatic, but because they felt inevitable, as though they were always meant to happen. A chance meeting becomes more than coincidence when it leaves a mark on the heart. A shared laugh at the exact right time, a conversation that flows effortlessly, a silence that feels meaningful rather than empty. These fragments of time feel suspended, existing outside the rush of everyday life. In those moments, the world seems to slow, allowing them to exist entirely in the presence of one another, unaware of what came before or what may follow. There is a strange comfort in moments that feel destined. They bring a sense of familiarity, a feeling of having known someone longer than time allows. Each encounter carries a quiet intensity, as if every second matters more than it should. They begin to look forward to these moments, not with expectation, but with a gentle hope that something rare is unfolding. The heart recognizes significance long before the mind attempts to reason with it. These moments do not ask for permanence, they simply exist to be felt. Yet, within them lives the illusion of forever. A touch that lingers, a gaze that says more than it should, a smile that feels like a promise. Even when nothing is said, there is an understanding that these seconds will not fade easily. They imprint themselves deeply, becoming memories that resurface unexpectedly, long after the moment has passed. Destiny does not always lead to togetherness. Sometimes it brings two people close only to show them what could be, not what will be. That knowledge makes these moments both beautiful and painful. Each shared experience feels precious because it carries the awareness of its own fragility. They hold onto these moments carefully, knowing that something so meaningful cannot last forever, yet unable to let go of the feeling that it was meant to happen exactly as it did. Moments that feel like destiny leave behind more than memories. They create echoes that follow both hearts into the future, shaping how love is understood, how connections are measured, how absence is felt. Even when time moves on and paths separate, those moments remain untouched by distance, quietly reminding them that once, briefly, everything aligned, and for a fleeting while, destiny chose to let two strangers feel something that felt timeless. Love is not always ended by choice, sometimes it is interrupted by circumstances beyond the control of those who feel it. Between two strangers, love can exist in a fragile state, growing quietly until reality steps in and reshapes everything. Paths diverge, responsibilities weigh heavier, and timing proves unforgiving. What once felt possible begins to feel distant, not because emotions have faded, but because life demands separation where the heart seeks closeness. There is a particular kind of pain in love that is interrupted rather than destroyed. It carries no anger, no betrayal, no clear reason to let go. Instead, it lingers in unanswered questions and silent acceptance. Both understand that love still exists, unchanged in its depth, yet suspended in a space where it cannot move forward. The absence is not empty, it is filled with everything that remains unspoken. They part without closure, carrying the same feelings they once shared. Every step away feels heavy, not with regret, but with the awareness that something meaningful has been left behind. There are no dramatic goodbyes, only quiet moments where eyes hesitate and words fall short. Love remains intact, untouched by distance, yet rendered powerless by circumstances that refuse to bend. Time continues, indifferent to unfinished emotions. Days pass, routines resume, and life demands attention, yet love finds ways to resurface. It appears in unexpected memories, in familiar places, in moments that resemble what once was. Even as they move forward, something holds them back, reminding them of what could not be completed. Love does not fade, it adapts, learning to exist without presence. This interrupted love becomes a private burden, carried silently. It is not claimed, not shared, not acted upon. Instead, it becomes a quiet companion, shaping how they feel, how they love, how they remember. There is tenderness in this restraint, in choosing understanding over resistance, acceptance over bitterness. Love remains respectful of reality, even when it aches. Though separated, their connection continues to exist beyond physical closeness. It lives in the recognition that some bonds are not measured by time spent together, but by the depth of emotion left behind. Love interrupted does not lose its meaning, it transforms into something softer, something enduring. It teaches that not all love stories are meant to be lived fully, yet they still hold power, still leave traces, still shape the heart in ways that cannot be undone, lingering quietly between memory and longing, waiting in the spaces where life once stood in the way. An unfinished story does not end when two people walk away, it continues in subtle, persistent ways, woven into memory and imagination. Between two strangers, what remains is not the absence of love, but the presence of possibility. The ending never arrives clearly, leaving behind a space where questions linger and answers remain just out of reach. This lack of closure gives the story its quiet power, allowing it to exist beyond time and circumstance. They carry fragments of each other forward, often without realizing it. Certain songs feel heavier, certain places feel familiar without reason, certain moments trigger emotions that have no clear explanation. The past does not stay confined to memory, it seeps into the present, influencing how they feel and what they hope for. Even new beginnings are shaped by echoes of what was never finished, measured unconsciously against a connection that never reached its full expression. There is a strange comfort in an ending that never truly ends. It allows love to remain untouched by disappointment or reality's harsher truths. The story stays suspended at its most beautiful point, preserved in imagination rather than tested by time. What might have broken under pressure remains perfect in memory, forever defined by what it promised rather than what it became. This unfinished story becomes a quiet companion, returning in moments of solitude. Late nights invite reflection, and the mind wanders back to shared glances and near confessions. There is no regret, only a gentle ache rooted in understanding. Both know that what they shared was real, even if it never took shape in the world. That knowledge offers a sense of peace alongside the longing. They may never meet again, or they may cross paths as different versions of themselves. Either way, the story remains unchanged. It does not demand resolution or reunion. It exists as a reminder that some connections are meant to be felt, not fulfilled. Love, in this form, transcends outcomes and definitions, living quietly within the heart. An unfinished story teaches that not all endings need clarity to hold meaning. Sometimes, the absence of an ending allows emotions to remain alive, untouched by finality. It becomes a private chapter, read only by those who lived it, carried forward as a silent testament to what once was and what could have been, breathing softly in the spaces between memory and hope, forever unfinished, forever alive.